we are talking now about making an already very successful process, namely the EFT process, even more elegant. I mean, we're doing now in 30 seconds to a minute what used to take weeks, months, or years sometimes. And so we are, but we're a little impatient. We'd like to be able to do it in 12 seconds, you know. And but I'm serious about that. That's what I'm talking about here. Why not do it in 12 if you can a lot of times? And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to point something out to you. What I have over here, I don't know if you can all see this well, but I've taken the essence of EFT, the setup or psychological reversal. Then we have a sequence, 9 gamut in a sequence, okay, which was the basic model that Roger Callahan put forth and upon which TFT and a number of other processes are developed. If you take a look at that, one part of that is the driver. One part of that does the job, and that's the first sequence. That's what does the job. We put the setup in, the psychological reversal, in case we have psychological reversal, okay? But that's not the driver. Typically, that's not what does the job. Sometimes you get people where they have a result just with that, but typically the driver is that first sequence. After you do the first sequence, you'll then do the 9 gamut, which takes a while more, and then you need to do the sequence again. Well, as you have witnessed earlier today, we completely eliminated the 9 gamut, you know, from our imaginary tapping and so on for the physical pain item, did we not? Completely eliminated. Brian Foley completely eliminates it. Okay. In more recent times, I just decided to eliminate it. I just haven't done it. I'm still getting the results. Okay. Interesting. That doesn't mean it's not useful. That doesn't mean there aren't times when it should be put in. But if you can eliminate it and still get the results, why put it in to begin with? So, but if you want, but I'm suggesting to you, and you will see plenty of evidence as this seminar unfolds, I'm not even going to use it. So if you don't use this, you don't use 9 gamut, do you need the follow-on sequence as part of the whole process? See, so by eliminating the 9 gamut, you'll also eliminate the sequence, and now all you have to do is just do the psychological reversal correction and the sequence. That's half right there, folks. We just cut it in half, okay? Try it. Try it with your patient. Try it and see what happens. That's the bottom line is try it and see what happens. Now, if Lee is correct and your belief isn't in place, then it won't work. Right? Mm-hmm. One of the first things which I thought was really quite brilliant from Roger that I learned was that he painstakingly went through the 9 gamut process with people, and he would arm test for each of the eye movements and the humming and the counting and so on. He'd arm test, and he'd find out all these things to do. And then he finally said, well, you know what? He says, you don't have to sit there and arm test and muscle test to find out which one of those 9 things you need to do, you know, for this brain balancing process that seems to be going on here, what that's addressing. He said, just go ahead and just do the whole thing. Just do it anyway. It takes less time, you know. So that's what we do now. We don't sit there and muscle test for each one of the things. If you need to, you know, put your eyes down hard right or something like that, you just go do it. It takes so much less time. Well, that's great. So just do it. You know, don't sit there and muscle test for it. Just do the whole thing. Overdo it. Over tap, so to speak, or over, you know, move your eyes or whatever. And so that's pretty bright, I thought. And then what came out of that afterwards was well, why sit there and muscle test for psychological reversal? Just do the correction. It takes you less time just to do the correction than it is to muscle test, and then maybe do the correction if you need it. Okay. But now we're at a point where do we even need to do the 9 gamut? I have just thrown it out for the last couple of months. I have not used it, and I keep getting results. You know, Brian has used it from day one and continues to get results. I'm inclined, and of course these are all choices that you make. I'm just giving you the information. These are all choices that you need to make for yourself. But I would be inclined to not use it at all unless I'm stuck. That's what I do with collarbone breathing, by the way. I never use collarbone breathing unless I'm really, really, really stuck. And then I'll throw it in. Maybe I'll get some result. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll loosen the up, or maybe it won't. But if I put it in, if I put it in consistently, I'm wasting my time, apparently, most of the time. That's true with 9 gamma. If you put it in all the time, but yet it just doesn't seem to be necessary, are you not wasting time most of the time if you do that? I mean, at least that's the way I look at it. And so you will see for this seminar, I will rarely, if ever, use a 9 gamma. And we'll just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. I haven't used it yet, you know. Again, I don't want to suggest that it's not useful. Roger put it together for certain purposes. I just wonder if it is as prevalent a need as at least I originally thought. Okay. Another thing we might want to do, which might add a little more power to this, and I've experimented with this some, but I don't have really enough background here to tell you this is or is not useful in the process. And that's this. As you know, with the EFT sequence, I've sorted the thing down so you don't even bother with the fingers. You know, through here, down to under your arm, and eliminate the fingers. But part of the logic to that is it's not so much that you don't need to tap on the fingers or the fingers aren't useful. But who was it? Somebody on our EFT list just recently said somebody could not tap on their face for whatever the reason. I forgot what the reason was. There was some injury to the face or something like that. So they tapped on the fingers instead and got the result. Okay. I don't know what you do about that, but that's what happened. Well, as far as the fingers are concerned, when you tap on your eyebrow point, for example, are you not tapping with your fingertips? Right? Okay. And it's not the fingertips you're tapping with awfully close to the fingertip point. It's not right on it, of course, but it's not awfully close. So as you tap here, and 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 so on, are you not tapping on your fingers more often than you're tapping any place else, or at least close to those points? Sorry, Craig has a question here.
But when you work with people, you're doing the tapping, not them.
Not always.
But I mean, a lot of times, like on the videos, you're tapping on them so they're not even using their finger points.
I realize that. Also, but when I'm on the telephone with them, I'm not tapping them. And I will oftentimes tap people on stage, when I'm working to tap themselves. I do it both ways. And you're right. And you're right. You're right. I'm only making the point is that when you're tapping with these two fingertips, there is some logic to say you're also tapping those meridians. That's the only point. So therefore, not only are you tapping these 7 meridians, but you're also tapping, perhaps, these two, not right on it, but you're getting energy down these 2 meridians as well. So why not just take all 5 fingers and bunch them like this and tap this way? Okay? And do it this way. I don't know that it's going to work. I don't have lots of experience with it. I don't have controlled studies, There's some logic in that, however, to do that. Now, if you have long fingernails, you're probably going to do a little damage, okay? Does it work with just 2 fingers? Does it work? So don't worry about it. Just go ahead and tap with 2. But if you have short fingernails, you want to tap with all 5. There's logic to do it because you are tapping on, or you're sending energy down more meridians when you do that. So I just point that out as something that might supercharge a bit and maybe help in a case or two that wouldn't have otherwise. Now here's something that I have used a little bit, and it's just an idea for you about making this more elegant and making it less time still. I just haven't done it enough to tell you that this absolutely works at all times. But you see, when we do the sequence, the way I put EFT together is we will say, this sphere of heights, this sphere of heights, this sphere of heights. Got a reminder phrase, right? And the purpose of that is to keep you tuned in to the particular problem. Now, I know there's lots of logic that says you're entrained to it anyway, and maybe you don't need that. I tend to put that in. I've had a lot of feedback from a number of EFTers that say they really like that because the clients like it, because it does kind of keep them on their own issue. Because as you know, people will tend to flip back and forth from issue to issue. I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Somebody remind me what I was just talking about. Oh, I know what it was. Okay. So you use a reminder phrase to tune yourself in. I suggest to you there's another way to do that, which will make this thing faster and a little more elegant still. And that is if we combine the setup affirmation with the sequence. Even though I have this fear of heights, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this fear of heights, I deeply and completely accept myself. Even though I have this fear of heights, I deeply and completely accept myself. So instead of using the reminder phrase, this fear of heights, this fear of heights, this fear of heights, just use the affirmation as you go on down. You're combining the 2 of them. Now, do I have enough experience to say, oh, that always works? No. But does it fulfill the goal of the reminder phrase by keeping someone tuned into the problem? Of course they are. They're doing that affirmation, that's tuning them into the problem. Okay? It is doing that. Might it take care of psychological reversal in the process? Probably so. And my guess is if you really want to zero this thing down and make it even shorter still, you could just combine the setup as I just mentioned with the sequence in that one round and watch what happens. Okay? And keep your own statistics on that. I'm sorry, we have a question here.
The setup was done with the affirmation, with the karate chop or the sore spot. So
Yes.
would you add that then to the sequence if you're doing the affirmation with it? How would you
No.
cover that?
When you do what I just said, you give up the sore spot or the karate chop spot. Okay, and there is some logic now. I believe Dr. Callahan just says tap this alone, don't even use an affirmation, and you'll take care of the reversal. And some people have told me that is worked for them. Yet another thing that works for them. Okay, do we see it? Do we see a thread here somehow? I mean, it seems like just about everything works somehow. You know. That is true. Yeah, just about everything works. Go ahead, Jennifer, Larry.
I wonder if there's another question we have to unfold here or peel away, and that is that really a reversal? And I think you said before that maybe it's about permission, or maybe it's another issue. I mean, when you say, well, I want to be over this problem, I don't want to be over this problem, or I have permission to be over the problem, or I don't. Maybe that's another problem.
Yeah, another aspect, yeah.
Yeah, and not a reversal. I mean, what is it that makes it really a reversal?
I don't know. I mean, Roger is convinced that that's a literal changing or shifting of the polarity, a reversal of the polarity in the system. Well, okay, it may be. There are all kinds of healing techniques which require, as part of their protocol, some form of permission from the system. The arm test, do I have permission to work on that? Lots of them do that.
Yes.
This one doesn't. It doesn't. EFT, which is model for TFT, doesn't do that because Roger never did it. But if you look at it, it's really important. You just don't. I mean, how many times have you dealt with a client and you've even taken something away and they almost resent you for it? It's like you took it away too fast. Like, what'd you do? I don't have my friend. They may not say it that way, but I don't have my friend anymore. So you need permission, I think, from the system. And I also think, and this is speculation on my part, Larry, that when you're really not able to make headway with somebody, I think there is such a huge secondary gain or loss in it that you're just not getting permission from that system, and they're psychologically reversing on you. Again, I can't prove that. That's just from my experience in the back over here.
My experience with that, both personally and with clients, is that if there's a secondary gain, there's a feeling that you don't want to get rid of the problem. But if there is trauma, a certain degree or sequential trauma, there's a fear you can't. And that feels like the psychological reversal, whereas the other feels like secondary gain.
And could well be. Could well be. I'm not sure anybody really knows what psychological reversal is. We just know how it seems to be affecting things and how we seem to be able to do this other process, and it seems to go away, and we seem to have the way paid for us. Okay. Another way that you might want to use to make this yet more elegant still and yet faster still is to do what I call the claws. And that is you would take your hands like this, take one finger and put it here on your eyebrow point, okay? Take your thumb and put it on the corner of the eye, okay? And let the other three fingers just fall where they may, right there, and tap right there, okay? As you're doing that, you are getting the eyebrow point, you're getting this point, I forgot which points there are, but there's some that go to the forehead here, so you're getting 3 or 4 points all at one time with one tap, okay? You don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that, okay? You can do I haven't done this for a while, but you can do a similar thing like this, Do several at one time. Or if you want to do both hands, you can do this. And what was it? Don Eliam, who's not here, going to be the next seminar. He called it the monkey thing. It was like like that. Okay. But think about that. There's no reason. By the way, if order is really important, then you need to tap them one in some kind of sequence, right? But if order is not important, just tap them all at one time. Okay? Maybe somebody will develop a machine someday. You can get in and just go like that, and you're all done. I don't know. Also, I mentioned it earlier, but I want to put it in here in this context. We also develop what I call your point, which is one or more points that when you tap on that point, you notice. You can literally feel something happening. The clients will even report that. Oh, when I tap there, where's Marilyn? Marilyn Gilmore. No, Marilyn. There you go. Marilyn and I were working in Maine at one time, and we were dealing with it, and I would tap under her eyes, and this was wonderful. I love doing this because every time I tap under her eyes, she'd go, ah, right? You remember that?
It was a lobster claw you ended up.
Yeah, but she said any place around my eyes, which was here, here, or here, and so we would do just like that. And those were your points, right?
Well, you hit certain points that really felt good, and then you started to do that claw.
Yeah. Okay. But I just point that out to you because it could be that when you're dealing with a client, you may find one or 2 points, and that's all you need for that client. If the client says, it really feels good when you tap like under my eye or on my collarbone point or something like that, pay attention to that and just practice sometimes and address their problems with that one point and see what happens. I can't tell you what happens because I haven't done all this experiment myself, but I have enough evidence from what I have done that there is some logic to say you may do it more elegantly still with one single point. Yes, Lee, we need that.
Jerry, when I first started using all the points, as you described, I taught this to a colleague of mine, and she began tapping herself all the points from top to bottom, one-stop shopping algorithm. And she claimed that after 2 weeks of tapping with all her clients, she also has ADD, that she experienced a clarity, a focus that she's never had before. So there may be some virtue to tapping all the points, and I've been doing it myself, and I've also noticed a clarity and focus that I usually don't have when I do all the points. And I still use the one-stop shopping algorithm.
Yes, and by the way,
all the points, all the way down, fingers, everything.
Yeah.
Right.
By the way, I am not here in any way, shape, or form preaching, as I said, the way to do anything. We are opening. I am taking a look at the EFT as well as the Callahan as well as any other technology here in the theories and taking a look at them and taking them apart, so we can launch from there and go off to the other things that make this more elegant. For some people, just one point may be very, very elegant. I will tell you. Where's Susan Curtis? There you are, Susan. You and I were talking on the phone, and I was asking you about the merits of tapping daily, several times a day.
Yes.
Not necessarily on one particular issue, just generally tapping, day in and day out, several times a day. Could you give me your experience with that?
Yeah, I started this about 3 months ago, and what I started doing was every evening I would review my day, and I would see if there was anything that was at all kind of stuck or anything that was uncomfortable, and then I would tap on that. And I tapped and I tapped and I tapped, and things appeared, and I tapped those away, and I found that this incredible thing was happening, that since I knew I could tap any kind of emotional disturbance, that I could then go to meet any situation with a kind of a focus and a calm and a directness that I had never experienced before. And I just feel like one thing after another, I feel like I'm down to this slight feeling of tension if there's any place where I haven't forgiven someone. But other than that, all these layers have just been peeled and peeled away. So I would highly recommend.
And to expand on that, when we had the conversation, a number of you I had a conversation with, not all of you on the telephone, I don't want to call so many, but I asked you at the end of this questionnaire that I had, was there anything you'd like to work on in the seminar? Remember what you said?
I said no, not that I knew of.
Not that
And you
knew of.
asked me, well, what about any old anger or anything really, really deep? And I said, I can't find it right now. There's nothing there. I'll call you if I do.
Okay. What Lee has just said a moment ago and what Susan has talked about here could well be the most powerful thing that you can do with the clients, and it is, I won't say the least used, but it is used not anywhere near as much as it could be. And that is, if you will just simply tap each day, or have your clients tap each day and every day, whether or not you have a specific issue. If you would just say, even though I have all these problems, or even though I wish I felt better about myself, or even though whatever, that's very general, right? In a second, go ahead. But it's very general, right? Even though da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. What appears to happen is your subconscious mind is probably going to find some issue for you. It's like this tree in this forest. And rather than cut a tree down, it sort of like tops it. Like if in your forest of emotional trees you have a bunch of 10s and some 9s and 8s and 7s and 6s and 5s and 4s and that kind of thing, it'll tend to prune and top, the first time you do it, some of the 10s. So the highest you have now is a 9.5. But you keep doing it day in and day out and day in and day out and day in and day out, and your tallest tree becomes an 8, and then it becomes a 7.5, and then it becomes a 7 and a 6.5 and a 5, very subtly and very gradually. Now, if you can think of a specific issue, like I'm really angry at so-and-so, or I'm really upset because of whatever, as you're doing this, well, of course, zero in on a specific item. But if you just do it generally like that, I have seen marvelous results. Many of you have read the one that Stephanie Rothman put on our email list for Lori. I met Lori. Lori is a really introverted lady, and after 5 weeks of this, she attended a seminar I did down in San Diego. And I mean, she's raising her hand and standing up and talking, and she had 3 or 4 boyfriends, and and this was someone who was a real introvert. I mean, she would go to work and just stay in the corner, kind of thing, Literal shifts happen. They happen and happen and happen and happen. And if we don't do that with our clients, I think we're cheating them, frankly, because there's marvelous things happen. Now, do we just do that with one point? Oh, probably not, because I would suggest you just do the whole thing. Why not? It doesn't take that long to do the whole thing anyway. And if they're really antsy about how much time it takes, just have them combine the setup with the sequence. Even though I have all these problems, I deeply and completely accept myself. Now, how long did that take? See, they're not motivated at all if they don't do that. And when should you do it? Throughout the day. And the best way to do that is remember these times. When you get up in the morning, when you go to bed at night. Very easy to remember. Each time you eat, okay, 3 times typically. That's 5 times spread throughout the day, right? And the other time you do it is every time you use the bathroom, okay? Which is dead time anyway. You might as well do some tapping, okay? You have anything better to do, and so that's a dozen times a day, or 15 times a day, or whatever it is altogether. And you spread that out. What will happen, and this is where you need to be very persuasive yourself in the client's behalf. What will happen is they will not notice the change typically. It will not be like, oh, I have this fear of public speaking, tap, 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 oh, it's gone. It'll be more like I have all these problems, and or whatever, and they start tapping, they don't really feel any different at the end. But it will be like this. It will be like the growing child. The growing child grows every day, albeit imperceptibly, correct? Just a tiny little bit, and they don't notice it. The child does not know they're growing until what? Until they try to put their shoes on 6 months later. They go, oh, I must be growing. My shoes don't fit. Or Uncle Charlie comes by and says, oh, God, you're big. I haven't seen you in 6 months. You're so tall. Well, well, I guess I am. Okay? They won't notice it because the changes are so subtle. And that's what will happen with the clients and what will happen with you if you do it. And you've got to notice it and you've got to point it out to the clients. Because it's very important, because what will happen is something will happen in their workplace, for example, and instead of getting all upset and running off in the bathroom crying and wonder why the world is coming to an end for them, they will respond very matter-of-factly almost. But they won't notice the change unless you point it out to them. You know what I mean? They just will not have the charge I think they used to have. It will change, and other people will say to them, oh, what have you been doing? Because they will notice a change. And that will be feedback. It's sort of like Uncle Charlie telling a little boy that he's growing, I could not emphasize that enough as a technique. I think that's very underused. Okay, Fred Gall is going to come up here just a little bit later, but I have a couple things I want to talk about first. Yes, Gloria, I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to say about the daily tapping that I walk every morning and I tap when I walk. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I start, because it's in the morning, I start with, well, how am I feeling physically? So I get that out of the way first. Did I have a bad night's sleep? Is my stomach upset? Whatever. Then I go from there to the piddling things, like the insurance company check hasn't come, stuff like the immediate daily ones. And then I go to the long-term ones that I'm working on. And sometimes I just tap for, 1 minute, and sometimes I tap for 15 minutes, but I have a wonderful day. it just gets me to a point where I just go through the day. I feel wonderful.
And what I would ask you about on that is overall, not just talking about the specific day, but overall, has your self-image changed? Has your general demeanor changed compared to what it was?
I don't know about my demeanor, but the emotional level is generally higher. And I was sharing with Callie that I was working on a very long-term physical thing that was worrying me. And I did it for a few months, really. And recently, in the morning, I have to remind myself, oh, you didn't tap that. And then I think, but it's not worrying me anymore. It's like, I really should tap that because I really should still be worried about it.
Of course.
And I'm just not. And I wanted to add that because I live in California, I tell all my clients to tap at red lights because we drive so much.
Oh, okay. And now you can tell them to imagine the tapping so they don't have to,
And I was sharing this with a class, a little talk I gave, and I said, my goal is to have everyone in Santa Barbara tapping at red lights, and one woman said, I saw you.
Well, a question for Nahoma, then I need to go on.
One more quick corroboration. For the first year and a half or so that I was doing TFT and stuff like it, I was tapping all day long with my patients. They would tap them and I would tap me just to show them where to tap. And then some months ago I got trained in TAT, and TAT is also wonderful and does a lot of the same stuff, but since there's only one position, which looks like this, I wasn't holding the position while the patient was holding the position. And about 2 weeks into it, I noticed I was feeling low. And I noticed that I hadn't felt low since I'd started doing TFT with my patients and also on myself. And I thought to myself, it must be because I'm not tapping with them.
Could be.
And so I started tapping with them and doing more TFT again, or EFT, and doing more with myself, and that's completely disappeared. So I think you need to do it a few times a day, at least if you're a normally neurotic American.
Normally neurotic American. Along with that, I had a conversation with Jonathan Spear here just earlier today, a while back, but he had a neck problem. And he had tapped himself, I had this correct, he had tapped himself many times, fingers, the whole thing, with EFT, didn't make any result. He just got out of the a refresher TFT DX course just a couple weeks ago. Okay, why don't you give him the microphone, would you?
Right here. Raise your hand.
Jonathan. And so, if I remember correctly, Jonathan, what happened was you did some diagnosis. Okay?
Did some diagnosis, right.
With some, by the way, all the other tapping you had done was on your own.
That's right.
All right. And then you did somebody with diagnosis, and what they did was they muscle tested you and found a diagnostic thing or whatever, and then you tapped, and what happened with the neck?
The neck problem is gone. I'm moving my neck in ways that I haven't for probably 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. A long-term problem seems to have gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the question I have. And you're going to have to use your intuition because I don't know the answer. Okay. Was it because it was a properly, succinctly diagnosed sequence that did the job? Or was it because he was working with somebody else? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Or both? I don't know. See, that's something we don't know, do we? And we can't go back and undo that. But in the meantime, in all the other times, you have tapped all these different points, one way, shape, or form, yourself. And one could argue, did you do several rounds, by the way?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so if you do several rounds, all in one session, several rounds for the neck.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if the right sequence is, for example, thumb, assuming there's a right sequence, thumb, little finger, under the eye, and eyebrow, right? And you start off with eyebrow, side of eye, under da-da-da-da-da. You're not going to have the right sequence the first time, are you? But by the time you go through 2 or 3 of them, you're going to hit the right points in the right sequence, are you not?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you would have gotten that sequence on your own. At least I would presume that in that example.
Yeah. There were 2 hold-ons in the sequence that did take away the pain. Which would have, and they were fairly long, probably 8 in the first one, probably 5 or 6 in the second one. So yeah. I would have had to have gone through it 15, 30 times. I would have had to have done EFT. Perhaps I could have.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I do know with great frequency, people will come up to me that breaks in seminar, and they'll say, well, Gary, how come is it that when you do the tapping with me, I get results, but when I do it on my own, Now, we have other people do it on their own, it's fine, okay? But some people, you've got to work with them on it, or they just don't seem to. How many of you have noticed that, by the way? I mean, if I'm the only one, yeah, there's something, and Bill Teller will tell you why that is, if you want to ask him tomorrow. There's something about the energy of two people getting together. There's something about the intention of that breaks through something, I think. But that's, again, we're just talking out loud. Here, ask Carol back there.
I, like many people here, do EFT many times a day with clients, and I wonder about the affirmation. I will repeat their affirmation 3 times because oftentimes they can't remember what they said. Mm-hmm. And as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, if I don't have this issue, am I still getting help with the EFT, with the tapping on my own issues, or is this like sort of like a blank? Am I shooting blanks, basically?
I couldn't tell you. I don't have any experience with it. Maybe somebody else does. But you're like they have a height phobia and you don't, and my guess is you're not tuned into to a problem you have, and therefore the tapping isn't really going to do that much on you. But that's somebody else can give you evidence to the contrary. Remember, it all works. Go ahead, Rick.
Just a comment to back up what you were saying a minute ago about 2 people. With more than, I forget, 2 or 3 clients now, I've had the experience where they've tapped and had some success, but only to a certain level, and we kind of reached a plateau. Then they came in, and with at least 2 of these people, they came in and we did it in the session together, and it's still them tapping, and still stayed about the same place. And for one reason or another, I went over and tapped on both of them myself, and as soon as I did the tapping, and we do the same points and basically the same kind of thing, it made all the difference in the world. It dropped out. There's something about my interaction with them and the relationship and having done it that made a difference.
I have a very bright, brilliant friend who I must tell you was an engineer. That's why he's bright and brilliant, okay? Named Al Larson. And Al Larson has written a book called The Electric Life. And I asked him, I said, Al, why is it sometimes when I touch the client, I just do it intuitively quite often, just as a way of connections when I was putting it. He says, why is it when I touch them, I seem to get some results that maybe I wouldn't get otherwise. I'm intuitively drawn to do that from time to time. And he says, where do you touch them? And I said, well, I touch them typically, if you feel watching the films, typically what I do is I got my hand, here, I'll do it with Sandy right here. It's right back here, okay? And of course, the spine is where that's the central switching system for your whole system. Okay, and he says what you're doing. This is his view. Okay, is connecting an electrical circuit. And see, there's a length of your arm, for example, which is kind of a natural length of a circuit, and you're tapping like this by putting a hand back there, and you're connecting a circuit. And by doing that, you're literally rewiring it, and that's why the touch in this case works. That was his view of it. I just pointed out to you. I don't know if it's true or not. Okay. Yes, Bobby.
I would just like to say how I think important it is to do the tapping daily and have your clients do it. I've been doing that daily 5 times a day, and I've seen a big shift in myself. But I think the bottom line is what it does is keeps the person out of reversal. I think if we can keep those meridians open, then they're able to have that logical part of their brain come in, and they can logically figure out. And I find that that's probably the biggest thing, is when I have my clients do that, and they will do that religiously, they do not have their problem come back. And there is a major shift. The only other thing that I've added that I kind of like is I go back up. So when I finish here, I'll go back up. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I just find I'm feeling even better.
Do what works.
But it's great.
Do what works. There are lots of people that simply like doing the whole entire tap on everything, and so why not? Why not? I mean, we're talking about the difference between doing something in 7 seconds or 31 seconds. Now we have a bonus session with Marilyn Gordon, who's a professional hypnotherapist and combines EFT with hypnotherapy with impressive results. She works with Marty, who agrees to do a session with her, uses rapid induction, and combines the 2 procedures masterfully. I thought you'd like to see it.
So hi, I'm Marilyn Gordon, and I want to just talk to you a little bit about the session that I had with Marty the other night, or we had together. And we worked on her nail biting, as you heard Marty tell about before. Worked on her nail biting. What I did was I asked the subconscious mind to go to whatever she needs to pay attention to regarding that experience. So that's the way I phrase it to the subconscious mind. Let's ask your deep inner mind what it needs to pay attention to today. So we did that, and she went into a space that she's going to talk about to you very briefly, and then I'll demonstrate. There's one thread that we didn't complete. So we're going to complete that thread today as briefly as possible. But Marty will just catch you up on where we've been before.
I went pretty quickly to some incidents that I felt had a sense that were related from other attempts to work on this and other related issues. Particularly not being able to take walks alone or ride my bike alone. And I'm not a fearful person, so I hadn't understood why that was and felt like it was connected to something. Can you hear okay? So a number of different images came up with some feelings, but what I think was at the crux of it and why I couldn't get past the nail biting was what I so typically find as a therapist is that there's a life threat situation at the bottom of what we deal with. And so I had this sensation, and I think it was probably sexual abuse, but there weren't still any clear memories of a weight on my chest and not being able, essentially not being able to breathe. And I, during the session, couldn't breathe. And then the sense of not having any protection, no one who could protect me, and my needs weren't important. And Marilyn did a wonderful job of acknowledging the anguish was the term that she used and fit directly, and the fear.
So what we did is helped her to feel a sense of being protected. And that's why she doesn't need to bite her nails, because she feels a sense of protection that comes from within herself. And that's the whole crux of it.
And the image I got at the end I just want to share with you is of basking in golden light, which is my sense of God and love in the universe. And all these people standing behind me were like sort of on the stage and surrounded by all these wonderful people, and I didn't know necessarily who they were, but there were all these people that could be available to me, and we were all basking in love. So it's really beautiful.
Great. So would you hold this? And you need to hold it by her, okay? Great. So what I'm going to demonstrate first is a rapid induction, and I tell clients that I'm going to do some touch hypnosis. I'm going to touch them here and here and here, touch their hands. I may snap my fingers. I might drop their arm down. I tell them this so that I get their permission, first of all. So I already have Marty's permission. It's okay to do it again. And it's okay if I tap on you while we're in hypnosis. Great. Okay. So won't you give me your hand? And then I also tell her that some people go very, very deeply. Some people go very lightly. Most people are in the middle where you still have awareness, you still have control, and yet you get nice and relaxed. So take a look at my hand. Take a deep breath in and sleep. And just drift down and relax. I'm going to press on your shoulders and sleep. Touching your forehead again and relax. Just drifting very deeply down. I'm going to take your arm, let it be nice and loose and limp. Very loose and limp. And as your arm goes around and around, you'll go deeper and deeper down. 5, 4, 3, 2, sleep. Drifting deeper down, down, down. And I'm going to count from 25 down, and as I do, Marty, you'll be able to go very, very deeply. And when I get to 1, if you like, we'll follow that thread of that little girl on her bicycle. You can take her where it needs to go. Okay? Good. Do you feel that energy coming in? Good. 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And just relax. So do you feel ready to begin now? Good. I'll touch your forehead. You go deeper and relax. Let your head completely relax. Deeper down, down, deeper down. Very, very relaxed and peaceful. Very, very relaxed. So what we want to do today is to pay attention to whatever your deep inner mind wants to pay attention to that has to do with that incident, that little girl riding her bike. So I'm going to count from 3 to 1. When I get to 1, I'll snap my fingers, touch your shoulder, and you'll be able to either see it or feel it or hear it or just know it's there. So getting ready now. 3, 2, 1. And whenever you're ready, you can tell me what you're experiencing.
The same sense of fear that I felt the other night. It's not strong. As if I'm near the school and I'm standing with my bike, looking around as if there's danger, but I don't know where.
Tell me some more about that fear.
I can feel it in my heart.
What does it feel like?
It's growing.
Tell me about it.
And having more trouble breathing.
Okay.
It's just in the center of my chest.
Can you tell me anything else about that fear?
No, it's lessening a little.
Good. Let that little girl look around and see if there's anything there.
It's strange. It's so open, and yet there's a sense of danger.
Okay. So go even more deeply now.
Because I'm on my bike.
Not because you're on your bike.
Because I'm on my bike, there's danger.
So I'm going to ask your deep mind to tell you anything that it wants to tell you about that. And I'm just going to touch your shoulder, and it'll tell you anything it wants to tell you about that. You notice I'm not tapping yet. I could tap the fear away, but what I'm doing is I'm wanting to find out more about it first. I want to get as much information as I can, and then we'll do some releasing.
It's not the bike. It's because I'm out away from my home alone, which connects to that other image that was there the other night before, where I was walking on a tree-lined street.
So it's away from safety.
Being alone.
Okay. So this fear, this fear, this fear, this fear, this fear. How's it feel?
Less.
Good.
Yes, and the words were away from my family.
Yes.
It's not safe.
Right. Okay, so how does that feel now in your body?
Relaxed, like just a kernel of fear in my heart.
Away from my family. Away from my family. I'm going to do an experiment. I'll try tapping on chakras. Away from my family. Away from my family. Away from my family. Away from my family. How does that feel?
Not much change.
Okay.
Headache at the top of my head.
Tell me what that's like.
It's real localized.
Did it just come?
Yeah, although it's the kind of headache I've had for a number of years related to some chemical poisoning.
Does it have a color to it?
Earlier.
Hollow. Does it have a shape to it?
Round.
Where is it right now?
Top of my head.
How much does it weigh?
Half a pound.
If it could speak, what would it say to you?
Help me.
Okay, help me. Help me. Help me. Help me. And what's coming up now?
There's never been anyone to help me.
Yes. Okay, so just let yourself experience that. There's never been anyone to help me. 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 Never been anyone. Never been anyone to help me. How does that feel now?
Less tense, but
good.
Pains, you know.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Right. Hurting. Hurting. Never been anyone to help me. It hurts. Hurts. It hurts. Never been anyone to help me. It's hurting me.
But everyone else's needs were more important.
Everybody's more important than I am.
Their needs.
Everybody's more important. Their needs are more important than mine. And how's it feel right now?
Comforting.
Good. So let me ask you something. What does that child need?
To know that my needs are just as important as others and that I don't always have to take care of it myself.
How can she know that?
Because I know that.
Yeah. Great. Would you like to hold her?
Sure.
Okay. She is. Just hold her real close. Right. You can tell her whatever you want to tell her. And let her know she's safe. Safe. She's safe. She's safe. 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 Completely safe. You have her now. You have her now. And even though you didn't have her before, people didn't pay attention to her before, you have her now. And just bring her into your heart. And let that love protect her. Is there anything you'd like to say to her?
It doesn't feel like it's to her, it's more the integration.
Great.
But I feel like what I need to say is that that's why I'm a therapist.
Yes.
But I need to take care of me too.
Yes. And the life lesson of this experience gave you the depth to be the therapist. Is that what you're saying? How's your head doing?
Way better.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to suggest a few things to your deep inner mind. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to suggest to you that your head's going to be just fine. Just fine. It's okay. Because you're safe now. You're totally safe now. You and all the parts of you that are integrated with you now are in a state of love and safety and peace and great joy. Now, is there any specific word that can remind you of this safety?
I'm not getting a word, but really strong. I can take care of me.
Good. Do you like that phrase? Okay, so
That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest you put your thumb and your index finger together. And whenever you do that, and you say, I can take care of me, that it'll create a great strength that's moving throughout your entire being, that's with you always. Your head is just fine. Your entire body is fine. You're safe, and you can take care of yourself. You can. You do take care of yourself very, very beautifully. Yes, you do. And you're a part of the universe. A very powerful part of the universe. And you're made of love. You're made of strength. You're made of wisdom and all good. And everything's okay. And all is healing. And all is healed. Yeah. Tap, tap, tap. Yeah. Thank you. And God bless you. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I've always been glad that hypnotherapists could hug and kiss their clients. I'm eternally grateful for it. Thank you, God.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. You want to ask any questions? Any questions you have of either one of us? Yes.
That was really beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, as a hypnotherapist, why you didn't formally bring her out.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, did I? That's a very good question. Okay, I'm going to count from 1 to 5.
Because she didn't need to.
Another thing that I do, and I've been doing for the last, say, 6 months, is after we finish, I make a 10-minute tape for clients that includes affirmations about what we've done, a kind of rundown about what we've done. I can channel it, let it come through me, what to say. That's a synopsis of what we've been through and where we are now. So they can take it home and listen to it every day and keep the affirmation coming. And has music. I usually work with music, and I have chimes, and my sessions usually last about an hour and a half, because I talk with people at the beginning, and we talk about a lot of different things, and I teach them EFT at the beginning also, and do EFT with them even before we go into hypnosis. So we already have worked through things. We go into hypnosis and work through more.
But I think it was her intuition that she didn't need to. I didn't feel like I needed it.
Yeah. But thank you for reminding me, because that's important to let people know. I do say we're going to count from 1 to 5, and when I get to 5, I'll snap my fingers. You'll be able to come back, and I give some affirmations about you come back feeling grounded and centered and loving and free.
I do.
Yeah.
I also want to say thank you, because that was very beautiful. And I wanted to ask if the tapping felt different being in a trance, and if you could say how that was for you.
I can hold this.
It's in me. I don't need it. Oh, okay. You want me to do that, Jennifer?
Sure. Okay.
It felt like an integral part. It didn't feel separate. It felt very natural. And perhaps because of the fast induction and the touch, there. But it just seemed to flow.
I also do Reiki, so I was touching her here, and I was doing Reiki on her heart center, and just working a lot with her energy system.
Which I felt was strongly effective.
Good.
I was wondering if you noticed anything different between the regular tapping points and the chakra points.
Marty or me?
Marty.
I think I felt more release with the tapping than the chakra. I don't know if that was evident, but it felt as if there was
good.
more.
More of an experiment on that.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Back to the drawing board. Yeah.
But it still feels like that was an important part.
Yeah.
Can't hurt.
No. Yeah.
Tell me how you experienced the rapid induction part of the work.
Well, Marilyn did this the other night, and I was surprised at it. It looks very abrupt, but it didn't feel invasive or anything in any way. Touch is important to me too. Yeah. So it just felt very natural today.
The whole idea of the rapid induction is to create a kind of shock. I try to mitigate it to make it, as gentle as possible. But in that moment of shock, the mind is not thinking, and we can reach right in with the relaxation. So I get her with the rapid induction out of a state, of a mental state. She can go into a subconscious or, the reptilian brain.
And actually, way before you were ready for me to focus on the piece of memory that I had, I was already there. I mean, it was really very, very rapid that my focus went there, and it was heightened.
But you notice I also did deepening. So the rapid induction isn't all that we did, but the counting really deepens it. And then I ask, sometimes I ask on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most, how deeply relaxed you feel, or I just ask, are you ready to begin? If they hesitate, then I did something, if you notice, I re-induced, just to help her to go a little more deeply.
That was interesting. That I don't know if any of you noticed that I took my feet off the chair, but I was
Yes.
all of a sudden incredibly aware of how restricted I felt, where I was at the bottoms of my feet, that they needed to be loose.
That's like a kid, too.
Yeah.
And that's what in hypnosis we call abreaction, when you go to the experience of being the person. I don't know exactly how you define it in psychology. In hypnosis, abreaction means you become, not just watch the experience. Right. Yeah, same. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
To give you a better sense of how Marilyn combines EFT with hypnotherapy, here's a couple of testimonials. First of all, you'll see Marty, who's talking in the audience about a previous session that Marilyn had with Marty, and also one with Leslie, who had a session as well. Thought you'd like to see them just for further rounding out of your understanding of this.
Marilyn did a hypnotherapy session with me Thursday night with biting my fingernails and cuticles, and I've tried virtually everything with this and have not had any desire to do that since.
Oh, fascinating.
And
Okay.
in fact, a real desire to take care of my hands and instead. So
Marvelous.
I really recommend people staying and watching her method.
Sure. All right, great.
I had a session with Marilyn last night, and you may be glad to know that little girl got a lot of attention, and the sorrow. Marilyn tapped with me about the sorrow and shame, and gave me some really good suggestions. And I feel really good today. I feel clear. I have less self-critical messages in my head, and
Good.
I feel optimistic. It was great.
All right.
So I wanted to just teach you a short series of pre-test to make sure that the neurological integration of you as the tester is correct, is absolutely necessary, and of your client, so that you'll be able to get more reliable answers. So I think the first thing I'm going to teach you is to test for jamming. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the question was jamming in ourself. And yes, the only problem is that the simple test I have for jamming is not something that you'll then be able to do a muscle test on yourself while you're in the position for jamming. The position for jamming tests for, I think I counted up to like 13 different types of neurological disorganization. Here's the test. It's very tricky. Thumb to pinky. Okay, like that. Oh, you don't have to put your arms out, but that's good too. So it's just like that. And when your client is put into this position, if a normal muscle test goes to weak, then that is a positive test for jamming, which means there's some sort of neurological disorganization, one of these 13 things. What we'll, I think, do here in just a second is practice on each other, and we'll have you guys test each other in the jamming position and see if we can find anybody who's jammed. Okay. Now, while they're in this position, about the only thing you can test for while they are jammed is why they're jammed. You know, which of these 13 different sort of things is jammed. Let's do a fun little experiment here. I would like this row right here, this entire row here, to to get arms akimbo, so you're touching each other. Pull up your sleeves so it's skin to skin. Skin to skin. And I'm going to have you put yourself all thumbs and pinkies together. Thumbs and pinkies, not thumbs and index fingers, thumbs and pinkies. And we're going to sing Kumbaya and We Shall Overcome. Okay. And, oh, good. So I would like you to not touch her, and we're going to do a test. Ready, resist. No, you're going to be apart. Ready, resist. Now, everybody touch again, thumbs and pinkies, thumbs to pinkies. Everybody thumbs to pinkies? Okay. So somebody here... So I'm going to go halfway. I'm going to break right here, and you guys touch from here over, and Marty, if you'll not touch Ken, because he's a leper and we don't touch him. Okay, arms straight. Ready, thumbs and pinkies. Ready, resist. Ready, resist. Okay. So I want to test you two guys. That tested fine. Thumb and pinky, thumb and pinky. Okay, I'm going to do a little muscle test. And okay, and I'm going to test Marty. She was already volunteering. Are you just talking yourself into this? Put your thumb and pinky together. Okay. Richard. You're just too empathetic. You were empathizing with Richard. Come on up here. Would you be willing to be a guinea pig? Now you don't have to do the following thing. I'm going to teach you the shorthand. I guess we come up here. I'm going to teach you the shorthand to correcting this. Would you put your thumb and pinky together? Now Richard wouldn't do good testing on anybody, or if somebody was testing him. Is it okay if I touch your head and your belly and your feet? Sure. And your back? Okay. So, okay. So I just did a little test for where I think it's going to be. I'm just going, I could go all around his cranial sutures. I could go to his belly. But in the interest of time, what I'm going to do is just go to where you put your hand right here so we're touching. Okay? We're going to, okay. So let's do a test right here. Ready and hold. Okay. Now I would like you to do, okay, we need a little marching song. Okay. Okay. Put your thumb and pinky together. Everybody ready and resist. Okay, good. So you felt the difference? Oh, yeah. Okay. So he had a type of gait jamming, G-A-I-T, gait. And this shows up developmentally in like kids, like if they don't get a certain sort of thing in the developmental process, there's probably some developmental psychologists here. If they don't get a certain kind of cross-crawling activity and whatnot, the gait doesn't happen right. And then there's all kinds of coordination, dyslexia, and all kinds of weird oddball things that can develop later on. You have any of those weird things? Are you a klutz? I'm kidding. Normal? I'm kidding. Now, have you had any like problems with accident prone or anything going on? Now, sometimes just an injury can actually have this happen in an adult. Okay, now what I could have done, would you put your thumb in? Oh no, we're gonna mess him up again. So now I want you to march in this weird, wacky way. No. This leg, that arm. It's weird. Yeah. No, that's all right. It's hard to do. That's it. Okay, so that's enough. Put your thumb and pinky together. Okay, ready? Resist. Okay, so we shorted him out again. Thanks a lot, he says. So, this point I taught you about this morning, thumb and pinky, ready, resist. You got the strength back? Mm-hmm. So this Bai is a point that will correct all of these 13 types of jamming. Now, I'm an acupuncturist, so I just throw a needle in there. But occasionally, I'll have a little child that isn't up for needles. And what I've done, and you guys at my lunch told me the name of it. Well, what is the little hair thing, the little plastic thing that has those little digger things? The headbands. Is that a headband? Okay. So you put a headband on, and what you do is you fix one up at like a couple of different sizes. And you just get 2 magnets right on the apex of the headband, facing down, and you have the opposite polarity. And you put that on top of that point up there. You can find out where the point is by muscle testing. You find out where your hand should be. Then you put this little headband with those two little magnets on it, and you see if that stops that reaction. If it does, great. If not, you flip it over 180 degrees. That will turn what was on the South Pole will now be on the North Pole, and then that should correct it. Now, that is the most common one. That will take care. Thank you very much, Richard.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That will take care of the great majority of neurological disorganization. There's another one that most of you are already familiar with, which is switching. This is touching at K27, and if you have them, if you touch bilaterally at K27, you can actually, if somebody switched, will result in a weak muscle test. There's even a way of doing your fingers that way for a peculiar sort of switching. You can test for that. If you touch those points and a normal muscle goes weak, you got a problem with switching. Rub the belly button in K27. This is one way to do it. Just do that really pretty vigorously. That will clear it for long enough. You can have them stick out their tongue and chew gum at the same time. So those are two important things. And there's two other things you can check for. You can so you know, you can have the person put their palm down over byway, governing vessel 20. And if a normal muscle goes weak, oh, here it is. If their palm is down and their muscle goes weak, then they have something called emotions blocking healing. Normally, when you flip your hand over, the muscle will go weak. So you guys, I want you to practice that and see if you can get a normal. If you find somebody who you think is going weak when the palm is down here, then come and get me.
What did you call it? Emotions?
Well, in the Schimmel-Vega test system, which is from electroacupuncture according to Voll, many generations removed, it's called emotions blocking healing, and it corresponds to a positive reaction to asafoetida 60X, which is a way I can test for it. That means there is an emotion that says, I don't want to get better. Now, you can do that with a muscle test, but the problem is, well, you know to ask for that if that shows up. They don't want to get, they really don't want to heal. And a similar thing with hand over the belly button, palm. If you get a palm to the belly button and you get a weak muscle, that's an act of emotions creating a disease. Now, that will also create problems in your muscle testing. Yeah. Oh, the mic? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I don't know what you did with your hands.
Oh, I'm doing what's called an O-ring test. An O-ring test is something that you guys can practice. You can actually, could I have another volunteer up here? The way to, okay, would you come up here, please? The way to, I would suggest the way to start with O-ring testing is to, you can start it yourself surrogate when you're physically touching a person or connected by a piece of metal. Have a seat right here. But the other way you can do it that's very easy is you have them, you'll put your thumb and pinky together. Let's check for jamming. Okay, great. So there's another trick about jamming I forgot to mention. Would you turn your head way to one side? Now turn it the other way. Not straight ahead. Look down. All the way down. Look way up. Now, if you have some folks that have cranial and spinal problems, they can be sneaky jammers. Another one to watch for is people who have a lot of jaw stuff. If they start gritting their teeth, you'll test for a muscle test. You think you're testing, are you, is your anger cleared, are you this and that, and they're gritting their teeth and they're just sorting out their jaw. There are tricks to muscle testing. There are, probably the biggest trick is that you anticipate and you think you know the right answer. Because as soon as you start thinking you know the right answer, then you are not asking the question you think you're asking. But these are some other pitfalls. So I couldn't get her to show jamming in any way. So I could start doing a muscle test, and what you do is you create a circle, not a pinch, but a circle. Let's use a stronger finger. How about thumb to this finger there? Ready, resist. Great. And would you say, my name is Susan?
My name is Susan.
Right. And my name is, give me a false name.
Oh, my name is Joan.
Okay. Okay. So you see that? You're just opening it up. Now there's a similar way you can do that on your own, like this. Okay. You're creating a circle. Hello. You have a beak. The beak goes in a circle. The beak opens up to squawk. When that happens, this circle will either stay closed or it will come open more easily than it did before. That's called an O-ring test. Okay. So, so let me show you how anticipation could happen. Okay. Can I have an arm right here? Mm-hmm. Okay. You know, I'm sure she's going to have a weak arm right here. Your arm's, you know, it's going to be weak. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I suddenly realize your arm has gotten completely, look at that posture. It's going to be a strong arm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So So it's my position that you can find anything you want. So the point is not to want anything. You are able to allow healing and everything to occur. You stand for that happening. You are stand for healing to happen, but you are not anticipating it. There's a very important distinction. As long as you're attached to her healing, every question you ask will be tinged by these sub-questions in your own subconscious.
I need to interject.
Have we done?
No, we're not done. Oh. You did a beautiful thing, what you just said, and I want to launch on it because we're going to hear about it in the next 2 days.
Okay.
The essence of surrogate muscle testing, and for that matter, intuitive diagnosis, is to get yourself out of the way. That is the talent, that is the primary talent which one must develop. The rest of it is mechanical experience, etc. But you must get yourself out of the way, get your agenda out of the way, and that is what takes a little practice and a little effort. But that's, I just want to launch off what you said because it's a perfect
well
thing,
put.
so I come up here. So
very well
see you
put.
later.
Very well put. So, does anybody have any questions about what we just showed? Okay.
Could you state the exact point that you touched on the top of the head to take care of switching?
Okay. The easiest way to find it is, it's okay if I touch your hand? Okay. Is you make little claws and you move all the hair away and you hook your fingers into the apex of the ear. You bring your thumbs over. That's going to get you in the midline pretty well. You are pretty much directly superior to the apex of the ears. Now, in Chinese medicine, there's a way of measuring the distance from here to the back of the head in a certain, modular system, and we're not going to go into that. That should get you about there, pretty close. And then you can just do muscle testing to get the precise thing if you need to use that magnet idea that I just mentioned to you. And you know what? You can throw a little piece of tape on that headband. Why is this hard? To keep it from moving while you're doing all the various things you're doing, because you want it to maintain no jamming during the length of the treatment.
Are we talking about the same point that was mentioned earlier?
Absolutely. Exactly the same point.
And that's large intestine?
No, this is governing vessel 20.
Governing vessel 20, okay.
It's a meeting of all the yang channels, as well as, of course, the governing vessel and the so-called conception vessel, among other channels.
So at the same point, you're testing this way that you use to touch?
To tap.
Great.
Yeah. Or at least I'm suggesting that as a possible point for you to experiment with.
Michael, whenever you read the literature in acupuncture, they use odd names, as you know, Tsun and so forth. Mm-hmm. The reference always seems to be to the person's own measuring. Is that because of heightened variability?
Exactly, and that's why I was saying there's a modular system, which, actually, can you remember, what is it, how many Tsun from here to there? It's, we passed the board already. I don't remember that stuff. I think... I believe it's 12 Tsun, and I could be wrong, between the this point between the eyebrows and the back of the occiput, and there's a certain number of Tsun up. So Tsun is simply a variable inch according to the length of the body. Any acupuncture chart would have that, and I'm sorry I don't recall that right off the top of my head. Well, not to make a pun. So, yeah. And then we could practice some.
Yeah, I was going to say, could you test another person and just show us like the steps to go through one more time?
I can, and I just realized something very important I forgot to mention. There's a couple of other pitfalls. Is it okay if I just... Okay. Oh, good. Good. So I'm going to test this arm. Ready? Resist. Okay. It's weak. Why is it weak? I didn't ask her any weird questions. It's weak because there's something wrong with her muscle here. So if you go and grab an indicator muscle that has something wrong with the muscle, guess what? You're not going to get a good indicator test. So it's good to do ready, resist, ready, resist. And there shouldn't be more than 10-20% difference between the two sides. There's something going on with her anterior deltoid or one of these muscles in here that's a secondary helper in that particular movement. There's yet another thing to keep in mind, and that is ask a person to hold their arm still. This is a very subtle difference, but it's very important. You ask them to hold their arm still, not to lift up. Okay? You say, would you please put your arm out here and hold it? Ready? Resist. Okay. As soon as they get in the mind that the idea is to lift their arm, a lot of times your thing that you're looking for is going to get lost, because now they have, well, I'm supposed to lift up. I better lift up. You know, you are creating secondary questions by setting up to where they have to, go up. So you make it a non-competitive thing. You're just going to hold right there. If it goes down, fine. If it stays there, fine. It's okay. You're not lifting up. We were talking earlier about, mentally, what did I do? I said, okay, this lady is very weak. Okay, I just did that mentally. Now, I want you to think, what is the strongest, most centered person in the world you can think of?
I don't know. I can't think of one right now.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, okay, strong.
Okay, wait a minute.
Centered is the problem.
Who?
I said strong and centered is the problem. I can think of strong.
Okay, a martial artist, something. Okay, I want you to think of somebody. Can you think of somebody specifically? Mm-hmm. Okay, you are that martial artist. Just close your eyes. You're becoming the martial artist. Okay, I'm going to think you are weak. She's going to win every time. If she's fixed on her own energy, you can't play any games unless you cheat, like I can cheat. I know how to get around that, but by and large. So if you create this, I got to lift up, she will overcome any other questions you've got going with, I'm going to be strong. You see what I'm saying? You create secondary questions. The trick here is asking the right questions, and I think some of the other folks really put that in. You've got to make sure you're only asking one question clearly. Is there a mic over here?
Two things. So you're saying to instruct them to hold their arms still.
That's right. Yeah, just to hold.
Don't say, because I've been taught, say you got to resist.
Okay. The thing is I usually say the resist is fine. Don't try to lift up. Just resist. I usually add that little phrase in there.
Hold it still and resist.
Yeah. If you say, because they're, like myself, I'm competitive. It's
right.
Like,
yeah, because
I'll mess things up with somebody trying to muscle test me sometimes. So they just have to instruct me. Okay, I won't be competitive.
Now the second one may be hard to answer. If you can't, we'll just move on. But okay, we've spent this incredible time with Larry today.
Right.
And he's muscle testing up the wazoo, and it's all going, and it's right, and it's wrong, people keeling, and all that.
Right.
And I listen to you, and there's so many things that you can screw it up with.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, if there's a lot of, if you're jammed, according to your terms, you're not going to be able to accurately test someone else.
Yeah, that's true too. If you as a
that what you're
practitioner
saying?
are jammed,
I mean, I can understand being jammed with yourself, but you're saying if I'm jammed and I say hold your arm out, I'm going to screw up the testing because I'm jammed.
Right. Just like
that's what I wanted to understand.
Well, let me show you this. Okay. Now here it goes. Okay. Ready and resist. My name is Susan.
My name is Susan.
Okay. Why didn't that work? It's because I was repeating that as if it applied to me. So she was strong. I was weak. I sent her a weak signal. I made her weak.
So what Gary's saying, get out of the way, is like
you absolutely have to.
My next question is, so you're saying that if you're jammed, You can put the magnets on your head, that'll work.
Yeah.
But other than that, is there anything you can do to get unjammed in order to do the testing that doesn't require props?
For the patient or for you as a practitioner?
For me to test someone.
If you are a practitioner who's jammed, you need to get yourself fixed.
And how do I get myself fixed?
Well, I have a card.
Well, okay. Can we fix ourselves with all these techniques where you work? And that's my question. Could Larry fix me?
Well, I don't know.
That's okay. That's what I said.
I know what I would do is, as a acupuncturist, homeopath, and herbalist, is I would find what's going on and I would correct it at its root.
Because
through those techniques.
Will be really educational because of your background and Larry's background. You guys have a conversation about that and demonstration. That'd just be, and use your tech, that'd be incredible, because it seems like there's those of us who have the kinesiology kind of psychological background, and then there's those who have the acupressure, acupuncture, really detailed background. And I listen to one, they're like two sides, and I keep wanting to hear both have the conversation. Because I listen to you and I go, oh, wow, this is very difficult. Here, Larry says, oh, it's not difficult.
No, I don't want you to get the idea it's difficult. Your folks that are jammed will be 10-15% of your group. It doesn't happen all that often, but when it does happen, you'll get funny answers.
Well, that's kind of what Larry was saying too. But anyway, I'd love to hear you guys have a conversation about that issue.
Okay, well,
someday.
We're gonna need maybe about 3 more minutes. We're gonna have to close it.
So you guys want to separate, and these guys don't need to probably film this. We could just separate and start doing muscle testing on each other. Test for jamming, test for switching, test for emotions blocking healing, emotions causing disease, and test both sides. So if in case they have a problem with a muscle, that you're going to detect it and you're going to go for the normal muscle, not a weak muscle.
Just a quick question. I'd heard that sometimes when I test for that, if the person touches one of the K27s and you test their arm, that's another check for jamming. Is that similar to this?
Switching.
Switching. Yes. But
switching.
Is that another point that does the same as this?
Not the same. No, it tests for switching. There's another thing called oscillation, which we're not even going to get into. Your chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia people, jet lag people will be oscillating. You also won't get really good answers with that.
Okay, I need a definition then.
Jamming,
switching.
Well, switching has to do with a certain sort of hemispheric disorganization. The jamming tends to be generally more peripheral nervous system problems, and that in this case would include the cranial suture locks. So there are 2 different tests for things that will get in the way. One's more central, one's more peripheral. So you guys want to do some muscle testing? Would it be? Sure, if you want. Should we just stop now so these film guys can go home?
Well, why don't you turn the cameras off, and then whatever time you want to spend, go ahead. I'm going to leave myself.
Absolutely.
So whatever you guys want to do. 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
Before concluding day 1 and going on to diagnosis, I want to emphasize a few points about the use of the comprehensive algorithm, which you've already learned and been using consistently over time with good results. We don't really necessarily need to abandon it, even though we're going to go into new material here. But even if you were to go into the new material, really master how to do diagnosis, learn where you are in the process better, and go that next step up towards being the ultimate therapist, EFT with this comprehensive algorithm still has very useful points to it that you need not abandon. For example, in teaching it to your client, you're not going to teach them how to do some kind of sophisticated diagnosis. You'll just teach them the regular tapping technique, the memorized procedure. Easy. Also, they will just use that. They can use that day in and day out, for consistent use over time, for consistent relief for the various problems they may be facing. Another use for it, which we really haven't dealt much with either in the previous tapes or for that matter any place in these tapes, is the use of group work, where you can get 5, 10, 20 people together, either with the same issue, a common issue like a common trauma, an accident, for example, or even if they have all different issues, you could have everybody tap at the same time using the very same algorithm you've already learned, and it's likely to be very effective across the board for the people. The other thing you can do is, as you have people in the group, start talking about their issue, you can just have them start tapping like this, and other people, as they are triggered into their own issues, listening to somebody else, they can start tapping as well because they're triggered into it. You can get a great deal done with a lot of people, at least take the edge off of many of the issues that they deal with, all doing it in the group and doing it with the one comprehensive algorithm. And finally, as you start to develop skills with the diagnostic techniques, you always want a fallback position. It's always nice to get out here and try something new, stub your toe a little bit as you try diagnosis of one kind or another, and then you can always come right back to your fallback position, which is the comprehensive algorithm you've used so well up to this point. So that's another use for it. So we're not talking about abandoning it here at all. We're talking about stepping off into new ways to make it more elegant, to be able to diagnose and so on, but not to leave it be. It has many uses, the comprehensive algorithm, just as it is.